Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through all the Dolphins news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A and we run you through the box score. Of the final score of the Dolphins Bills game. We run you through all the stats you need to know and all that other stuff. So let's get right into it. So your first news story that you need to know about comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins did attend Colin Kaepernick's workout. And again, if you didn't know, there's not really much to the story other than Colin Kaepernick did a workout Saturday in Atlanta. I really don't think it matters. I mean, I don't think Colin Kaepernick will ever be a Dolphin. Because I just don't see it. Nor would he probably want to be a Dolphin. So, especially this season, because he wouldn't be one next year. And I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a better quarterback. What he's been able to do with this team and what he's shown this season. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a solid quarterback, and there would be zero reason to, I guess, put your eggs in a basket. All your eggs in one basket for Colin Kaepernick. I feel like if you're a contender, you could do that. But we're not a contender this year. And next year, it's going to be about a young quarterback. So I just don't see this being a thing. I would rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick on board rather than Colin Kaepernick. It just fits what the Dolphins want to do for the future of the franchise. This move would make sense for the Dolphins. Now, obviously, they have to do their due diligence, go down there, see what's up. People forget before Kaepernick, all the stuff that happened with him. He was okay. He wasn't, insane. He wasn't Lamar Jackson. He wasn't Kyler Murray or anything like this crazy dual-threat quarterback. He had his time with the 49ers when they had a great team. They had a great team, and then they blew it up, and then he really wasn't ever the same again after that. Now, that could be to the organization being in dysfunction. He did have Chip Kelly as a head coach, yada, yada, yada. The organization was just not in a good place at the time. So that could have had a lot to do with it. But he wasn't playing at a franchise quarterback level. And even John Harbaugh's last years there, he wasn't. Before he got fired, he wasn't playing at that elite level that he played with. That he played when the team was what the team was. When before Patrick and Justin Smith, all of those guys were together. That's when he played his best, and that was an all-time great team, one of the more talented teams of the last 20 years. So, whatever you want to say about Colin Kaepernick, his career, I feel like, is a little weird because he did play on an all-time great team. He did have the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator at the time to run that type of an offense with him in his prime with that great team. And Baltimore has a similar team in terms of what their offensive line is about, what their offense is about, just physicality and a really strong running game, and everything is played off of that. They're very similar in the way that the teams are built offensively from both of those teams. So unless you have a really good team, I really don't see Colin Kaepernick bringing your franchise a ton of success in terms of being able to be like an Aaron Rodgers type or an Andrew Luck or a Russell Wilson who can carry a franchise. I don't think he's that guy, and that's who the Dolphins are looking for. So, that's why I don't think he will be a Dolphin anytime or ever, really. This next news story also comes from Pro Football Rumors. Now, you guys probably have already heard about this, but the Dolphins have activated Andrew Van Winkle, I think is how you say his name, from IR, obviously the rookie from Wisconsin, who had a pretty decent preseason before he got injured. And it's good. I can't really, I would have to go back and watch the game, but I don't think he played all that much. I could be wrong, or if he played at all, I would have to look at the inactives, but I don't recall him playing all that much. I could be wrong about that. Someone's gonna have to let me know. But yeah, the Dolphins have activated the rookie from IR. That comes from Pro Football Rumors. I'm sure all of you guys know about that. And the final news story today, before we get into the box score, Miami Dolphins and former University of Miami receiver Allen Hurns agree agrees to an extension. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Allen Hurns' Dolphins contract will now run past this season. The veteran wide receiver agreed to a 2-year, $8 million deal Saturday. This deal includes $3 million in guarantees. Hurns initially caught on with Miami in July and has served as a supporting caster this season, catching 13 passes for 170 yards in his first year with the Dolphins. Excuse me. A rebuilding team likely to add at least one key piece at receiver next year. The Dolphins now have Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant, and Preston Williams signed beyond 2019. However, the respective deals for Parker and Wilson open the door to cap space creating cuts. While the Dolphins do not need to clear cap space, being projected to possess more than $100 million next year, the rebuilding team may opt against employing 3 receivers with at least 6 years experience in 2020. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to see... I think Devontae Parker, if he can continue to play the way he is, he's not going anywhere. I don't think... I think the only one that I could see leaving would be Albert Wilson, but based on what I've seen from this last game, he's getting more healthy. Like, I saw the old Albert Wilson, or close to that old Albert Wilson that we saw before he had the hip injury last year against Detroit. Like, I saw the quickness, I saw the explosiveness after the catch. I think he's getting better, and I think time will tell whether Albert Wilson will come back or not, because I do think he's getting better. But what do I think about the Allen Hurns situation? I like Allen Hurns a lot. He's been open a lot since he's been in Dolphin. He hasn't necessarily gotten the ball a lot due to either poor pass protection or maybe just missed reads. But if you've watched the Dolphins games or rewatched, some of the Dolphins games, you see that he is open a good amount of the time. Against the Colts last week, he would have had a long touchdown if it wasn't deflected at the line. This week, he had a good game if it wasn't for some drops that he had. He obviously had the fumble, but he was open in this game quite a few times as well. He's a really good possession receiver, and he could definitely help any young quarterback going forward. He's a good receiver. He's a good starter in this league, and it's good to have depth at that position and to retain talent at that position. So I like this move a lot. He's a good player. Did he have a good game after his contract extension? No. He made a lot of mistakes, which I don't think is going to be a habit of his. So, we'll see what his career brings. But this is a guy who's caught a lot of balls in his past, caught a lot of touchdowns in that one season that he had for Jacksonville. He's been a 1,000-yard receiver, so he's a proven player who's a starter in this league. So I like the extension. So let's get into the box score, ladies and gentlemen. It was a rough day for us Dolphins fans for a lot of different reasons. We'll start with the defense. And before we get into the game, there were some key inactives that I want everybody to keep in mind for this game that I felt like is the reason the defense didn't play as well as it had the last 2 weeks. So some of the big inactives for this week were Taco Charlton, I'm talking about on the defense side of the ball, and linebacker Raekwon McMillan. Now, is Taco Charlton some beast of a man, and is he feared on the other? No, but he has brought us pass rush since he's gotten here. Very little pass rush, but he's at least gotten us something, and he's brought an athleticism to that defensive line to where if you look at some of the plays that he had the last time we played the Bills that Taco Charlton had, you saw him run down Josh Allen a few times and close the gap and get the ball out of Josh Allen's hands a little bit quicker, and that was noticeable in this game. I mean, I thought that his presence was missed a little bit with his athleticism and some of those third down situations. So say what you will about Taco Charlton, but I do think his presence was missed a very tiny bit. What if he helped in the run game? No. But we did lose one huge key asset in the run defense department, and that was Raekwon McMillan, who's been amazing all year at stopping the run, making open field tackles, just being a beast in the box. And his presence was missed in this game greatly, actually. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's tough that we lost those two, but, it's good to see those, not Taco, but Raekwon is going to be, I feel like, he's played very well, and I think he's got a bright future ahead, especially with Jerome Baker. But we'll start with the Dolphins defense. Again, the Dolphins fall to the Buffalo Bills at home 37-20. The Dolphins fall to 2-8 and still have the 4th pick in the draft currently. So no big movement there in terms of if you're interested in that. So we'll start with the defense. The Bills, I think, have had over 400 total yards of offense, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it's a little bit less. But Josh Allen finished the day 21 of 33 passing, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Rushing, Josh Allen finished with 7 carries for 56 yards. And that is a lot for a quarterback, but a lot of those were in key situations where he was able to pick up first downs. In terms of the running game, Josh Allen was their 2nd leading rusher, with Devin Singletary leading the team with 15 carries for 75 yards. And then Frank Gore finished with 11 carries for 27 yards. In terms of the receiving corps, John Brown finished with 9 catches for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's really, really all to write home about in terms of the receiving corps. Also, obviously, Dawson Knox had that touchdown over the middle to account for the 3 touchdowns that Josh Allen had. So, basically, the defensive struggles where I feel like, number one, the lack of a pass rusher was felt greatly in this game, and it was felt the last time we played these guys. We have no threat to rush the passer. I mean, Josh Allen had a lot of plays in this game where he could have taken an extra 3 to 4 seconds, and I'm not even exaggerating. Usually when you see Josh Allen play for the Bills against other football teams, he either has to extend a play basically he has to extend a play to get consistent. I mean, this offense is not very good. It hasn't ranked very well, and it hasn't produced at a high level, especially not scoring 37 points on anyone else this entire season. So, and like I said, usually when you see Josh Allen make the plays or make big plays in games is when he's scrambling. And for the most part, the biggest plays he made, for the most part, in terms of passing the football, if it wasn't a design run, was just sitting in the pocket. And you never see that with this team. And it's not like Josh Allen has developed into this, great pocket pass or anything like that. It's just the defensive line. It's very hard to get any pressure without blitzing with this team. It's even harder, or just as hard, to blitz with this team, as we found out with that Dawson Knox touchdown. So the Dolphins, and the biggest flaw of this defense is they just can't get pressure on quarterbacks. There's just no one on that defensive line that can affect the quarterback, that can wreck a game plan right now. And it's the Dolphins are trying to find as many answers as they can, because when they blitz, the back end isn't good enough right now to hold up for that long for the blitz to get there, to come home. And zero-man coverage and, zero-man blitz or all-out blitz, whatever you want to call it, is a huge staple of what the Patriots like to do, especially on 3rd down and in key down situations. They love to blitz everybody and just leave everybody one-on-one on the back end because they can, because of their defense and they're so well coached. Because of their secondary. When we do it to get pressure on key downs, we just don't have the talent to do it. Our communication is terrible. Our execution of the play is terrible. It's the right call in that situation. Because more times than not, the defense is going to win on that, especially against the quarterback who's not great at passing in the pocket, and he's not the best at timing, he's not the best at accuracy. So it's a good matchup in the defense's favor, especially on a 3rd down situation, to do that. It's a good call. And it's not like the Bills drew some crazy play up to defeat it or anything, like they threw a screen or they, had a man beater on it. Nothing. It wasn't crazy. It was a very simple play. It's just the defense didn't execute it very well, and that led to the Dawson Knox touchdown over the middle where no one covered him, basically. Bobby McCain was just straight up out of position. I don't know what Eric Rowe was supposed to do, but he was over the tight end like he was going to guard him man-to-man coverage. He ends up blitzing the quarterback, and I think, if I'm correct on this, and I feel like I am, but I feel like the call was Bobby to cover the tight end. He just was way, way too far back. and it was to disguise that Eric Rowe was going to cover him, but Eric Rowe ends up coming anyway. So I feel like it was all a disguise. I do feel like Eric Rowe was supposed to go after the quarterback, but I feel like whatever happened right there, Bobby just messed up his assignment, and that led to the touchdown to Dawson Knox. But I don't think it had anything. I think Eric Rowe did his job right. I think it was all disguise. He didn't know who was coming, who was going, and that's how they blitz. Is to confuse the offensive line and to confuse the quarterback to not know who's coming and who's dropping. And I felt like that's why Eric Rowe blitzed. And Bobby was right over the tight end. If you look to where he was in terms of where he was on the field, he was just so far off of the tight end. I don't know if he thought he could close fast enough. I don't know. But he clearly was out of position. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like I said, the biggest problem with this defense is their defensive line needs more talent on it. It's just not good enough. And the coaches are doing the right thing, but like I said, to get pressure, they have to blitz a lot of people, and that leaves the secondary one-on-one in the back end. And whether it's miscommunication or just we're not talented enough to execute the play, it always ends up bad for us. If you think about the Xavier Howard, but the 3rd and 20 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's a great example of it. There's been a ton of examples of it, actually. And then in this game, the Dawson Knox touchdown, that's a great example of it as well. So the biggest flaw with this defense, and I hate repeating myself, is the lack of talent on the defensive line. It is a huge problem, and hopefully the Dolphins fix it this upcoming season, because this defense would be so much better if they had someone up front that can make a difference, and they just don't have that right now. I mean, just way too much time on play action plays, normal shotgun plays. There was just way, way, way too much time for Josh Allen back there. He just wasn't disrupted at all. He had a clean pocket for almost the entire game. So, and again, if you can't disrupt a quarterback, it's going to be a long day. All right, let's move on to the offensive side of the football, which I have a lot to say about, this as well. And one thing I will say before we move on, Nick Needham. Now, he's probably going to get a lot of flack because obviously John Brown, it looked like, John just utterly destroyed him. No, a lot of the big plays that John Brown had was just, again, the lack of pass rush. And you might say, well, the Dolphins do a lot of 3-man rushes. If you watch the Patriots, all I got to say is just go watch the Patriots and see what some of their defensive linemen do to offensive linemen when they rush 3. That's not the issue. It's just the talent there is not good enough. Now, you might say, it's 3 against 5. Go watch the Patriots and watch how their defensive line will just destroy an offensive line with just 3 men. I mean, they've done that to us for years. It's possible to do, and they know how to coach it. It's just the talent isn't there. So let's move on to the offensive side of the football. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't know if maybe I did see. No, I said how much John Brown had. Anyway, I got kind of confused on my stats here. But anyway, Ryan Fitzpatrick finished today 32 of 45 passing for 323 yards. So he didn't have a turnover, he didn't have a fumble, didn't have an interception. So it's not that bad. But you don't want your quarterback, almost passing 50 times. The running game was non-existent in this game. Kalen Ballage, and this is the funny part, Kalen Ballage had 9 carries for 9 yards. He had 1 good carry, and that was the Wildcat play in the red zone. Jakeem Grant obviously had the rushing touchdown out of the Wildcat. Patrick Laird, I think is how you say his name, he had 1 carry for 7 yards. Okay? Myles Gaskin had 1 carry for 0 yards. So let's finish the stats before we get into this. Devontae Parker had a career day. He had 7 grabs for 135 yards. Excuse me. He averaged 19 yards a catch. He had he's trending in the right direction, and it's good to see Devontae Parker play well. It sucks that it's coming in this season and not some of the other seasons, but obviously the coaching staff has had a good influence on him. And he's starting to ball out. And again, it wasn't an easy task to have 135 yards on Tre'Davious White, who's one of the better corners in this league, but he made him look silly on a lot of those plays in this game. He had a really good game. Allen Hurts had 4 catches for 53 yards. Patrick Laird showing up in the stat sheet, 6 catches for 51 yards. He was the third leading receiver on the day, and he barely played. Jakeem Grant had 3 catches for 32 yards, Albert Wilson 3 catches for 26 yards, and Mike Gesicki 4 catches for 18 yards. So I want to start with the running game before I get into the passing game. I do not understand, and I just read you the stats, okay? So basically, let's just say this. I don't know how many plays Patrick played, because obviously there are plays in there where he didn't get the ball. But in terms of this, so he had 1 play, so he had 1 carry in the running game, and then he had 6 catches. So let's just say he was in there for 7 plays, right? He played significantly better than Kalen Ballage did in 7 plays. So how he's not starting, I don't understand it. He looks way better than Kalen Ballage does. Like, it's not even close. He's way better in the passing game. It's not even close. He's way better in the open field than Kalen Ballage is. He's a better running back than Kalen Ballage is, and he's an undrafted rookie, but he needs to play more. He deserves to start, and he proved it in this game. And I don't understand why they didn't switch it. They should have went with Myles Gaskin and not Kalen Ballage, but Myles Gaskin and Patrick Laird in this game. I don't know why they didn't make the switch in this game. They need to do it. Kalen Ballage is terrible. I guess he's good in the red zone if you want to use him in there with that Wildcat package, but that's the first time since he's been here that package has worked. So, they need to figure something out because the Kalen Ballage thing isn't working. He's terrible. He's not smooth in the run in the pass game. He can't catch and get upfield. He's not elusive in the open field. He can't make anybody miss. He's slow when he makes his cuts. His change of direction is just terrible. He slows way down, and it's just so easy to tackle him. It's just, I don't know. It's just not a good. It's just not good. Let's just put it that way. And not to mention, the man's confidence is shot completely. Like, you could see it in his face. And I feel bad for him, but a combination of not a good offensive line and a bad running back is not a good thing, because obviously we're on track to finish as the worst rushing offense in the National Football League history. Okay, so that's not good, and it has to do with a little bit of both. It's not just the offensive line; it is Kalen Ballage too. Like, it's bad. It's very, very bad. So they got to figure it out, and it's not just this game. I mean, it's been all year. We saw the difference with the same offensive line that Mark Walton and Kalen Ballage, the difference between the two. And it was clear to who was better. This is the biggest surprise of this year, of how bad Kalen Ballage has played. I liked Kalen Ballage before this season. He was having a great offseason. Everything that we heard from the Sun Sentinel to, what's the other one? The Miami Herald. All of these, outlets for the beat writers that, cover the Dolphins. All they said of how good is, Kalen Ballage playing. How good has he played in the joint practices against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? And he showed flashes of it last year against the Minnesota Vikings. It just hasn't materialized. He's played terrible. And again, it's not me just saying this to say it. I was on the Kalen Ballage train, man. I've seen enough this year. It's over with, dude. He hasn't played well enough, and that's what it comes down to. Like I said, it's a little bit of both, and the combination of the two together, it's just ugly, dude. With the bad offensive line, this offensive line is not, by any stretch of the imagination, good at run blocking. And to mix that with how Kalen Ballage plays, it's a disaster. So it just needs to be fixed next year as fast as possible. Running back is a huge priority next year, and that needs to be figured out ASAP. So let's move on. One thing I actually want to say before we move on from the running game. Not only did Patrick Laird, however you say his name, look 1,000 times better. He looked like Danny Woodhead in the past. I'm not even joking around. He reminded me of that a little bit. He was making people miss in the passing game. He looked smooth. He catches the ball well. So not only did he look better in the passing game, but also in pass protection. There was a blitz that, we had problems picking up the two middle linebackers, Edmonds and Milano, in the gaps in this game on stunts. We had a lot of issues with that on blitzing. The communication on the offensive line just wasn't, especially early on in that game, it just wasn't good enough. We couldn't play action pass because we had people in our face constantly. Not to mention we couldn't run the ball. But anyway, there was a play where I think it was Edmonds or Milano came free right up the middle of the A gap. I think it was right up the middle, right, and then and it looked like Ryan thought, oh, I'm about to get hit, and he tried to step up into the pocket, and he ended up getting sacked by the defensive tackle or something like that. But what he didn't realize is Patrick Laird. This is a great play by him. It's like out of the blue, like comes out of nowhere and just lays him out. Okay, like of all of those combination of plays with his one carry for 7 yards and his six receptions for how many yards does this man have? Hang on a second. Let me get this right. He had 6 receptions for 51 yards. And he's great in pass pro. All of that needs to be proof that this man needs to start next week. Hopefully that's enough, because he played very well in the limited time that he got to play. And it wasn't, like I said, it was doing some of the dirtier work where he looked great in pass pro. I don't understand why he doesn't start. It cannot get worse. It literally can't, because we are going to be the worst rushing attack in league history. So it can't. There's nowhere else but up. So I don't know why the Dolphins didn't try it this week. So let's get into the passing game. Okay, it's so weird because we are so much better at pass protecting than we are at run blocking. It's insane. Now we're not good in play action, but we're very at the drop back passing game. We're way better at than anything else that we do. That's the best thing that we do. I'm super surprised we didn't try to do that more early on in the game. I felt like we stuck and tried the running game for I think 2 or 3 drives in a row where we should have adjusted before that. And it was like, okay, this isn't working. I mean, our first carry was like, a loss of 5 or something crazy like that. We should have realized this team, that's not what this team is. I know this is what Brian Flores wants his team to be. And you have to have a running game to be successful in this. I get that, but it just wasn't working. I felt like maybe we should have passed to set up the run a little bit more in this game than we did. And I wish we would have done a little bit more of that because, again, like I said, the drop-back passing game for this offense is better than anything else this team does. But we did struggle, especially on play action, of picking up blitzes. Again, something that Brian Flores has said a lot is communication on the offensive line has been very poor. And that's something this Dolphins team has struggled with under Joe Philbin and Adam Gase, is just pass protection and blitz pickups have been terrible since those two coaches have been here. And hopefully that's something that continues to get better as the offensive line gets better. Hopefully, if the talent, we infuse this offensive line with some dang talent. But that was a huge issue in the past game, was just our ability to pick up blitzes was very poor. And I felt like there was a lot of plays that were left on the field, whether that be penalties, whether that be drops. Obviously, the fumble after the onside kick was killer. We had a lot of plays where we left points off. We left points on the field, and that's obviously very disappointing. Even on blitzes, there was a blitz where Ryan Fitzpatrick ends up throwing a fade ball to the right side when he had Mike Gesicki wide open for a first down on an out route. Instead of staring down this, Devontae Parker on the outside, if he just timed it up, stood in there and took a hit, he had enough time to get rid of the ball and deliver an accurate pass. He just misses him. It's stuff like that where we just had a lot of missed opportunities on offense as well. So again, I feel like some of the things that need to change is I think we need to pass to set up the run. I think Patrick, the undrafted rookie from Cal, needs to start. I feel like if we do what the Patriots used to do and just run out of spread formations a lot, when they did have Danny Woodhead and Russ Welker, and run that type of an offense, I feel like it suits this team more than trying to be the I formation, try to be physical, set up the run type of team that I just don't think this team can be. And again, Brian Flores is all about morphing into what you need to be each, week to week. What you need to be successful. And I feel like to be successful for this team, they need to do some of that. And I'm not saying it's going to be like super successful, but it will work better than what we're doing now. And again, like I said, I really wish we didn't stick to the running game as long as we did in that game. I feel like I said, and I'll say it one more time before we move on to the fan Q&A. Like I said, I think our drop back passing game is the best thing that we do, and I think if we do more of that to set up the run, then this team will have a little bit more success early on in games and more sustained success in games if we do that. Because again, I don't think this offense can be as versatile as Brian wants it to be, going in and out of different personnel packages like we do, which I like. I think for the future of this team, that's awesome, being that versatile. But we just don't have the talent to do that. And I feel like if we do some more of the things that I said with the spread, do some of the, one back in the backfield, run it out of that, and pass the ball to set up the run, I feel like we'll have a little bit more success. But anyway, let's move on to the fan Q&A before I repeat myself for the 1,000th time. And we all just want to leave after that. All right, so let's get to the fan Q&A. I think we covered everything on the box score, and we covered the game fairly well. Just a lot of missed One thing I will say, there was just so many missed opportunities. Nick Needham dropped a pick. Obviously Alan Hearns had the fumble. We had a bunch of stupid penalties that were bad calls by the refs. I mean, it is what it is, dude. It is what it is. I can't wait to play this Bills team next year. That's for sure. So this first question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, thoughts on the O-line and D-line this week? Well, we kind of just ran through it. Like I said, I think the defensive line is terrible and the offensive line is terrible in run blocking. But I do think they're actually pretty decent. I wouldn't say good in the drop pack passing game. And I'm talking about in the shotgun, not in play action. This next question comes from Tech Me Out. He asks, I've been intrigued by the thought of landing Dallas cornerback Byron Jones in free agency. Could the progress of Needham eliminate that need? Could Needham be the coveted number 2 corner? If he can continue to develop in the right direction and he can show up consistently, and like I said, this Bills game, you might read the stat line and say, oh, John Brown had that many yards on him. No. Most of those were because we couldn't get any pass rush. And I'm serious. It just wasn't his fault. It just was just way too much time back there. No one can cover for that long. And again, so he had his moments, and I don't think he'll ever be a number 1 corner, but he's shown a lot of progress so far as a Dolphin. So I feel like this is more of a wait and see question. I really couldn't tell you right now, but I feel like the Dolphins in this defense, the secondary is the most important thing. Like I said, you don't necessarily need a superstar defensive lineman for this defense to work. You need some competent people for it to work. Like, I'm not saying, like, we couldn't have success with the defensive line that we have now with any defense. I don't care what defense you want to run. You can't be like a top 15 to top 10 defense and go to the playoffs. Like, with this defense, you just couldn't do it. But with this defensive line, rather. So my point is, I think investing in the secondary is something the Dolphins are going to do. Because like I said, they like to send a lot of zero coverage blitzes. It's the same defense as Bills' defense. They like to cover. That's why they lead the league in third down defense over the last how many ever years. They like to build their back end to their defensive line rather than build the front to the back end. They value big people up front to stop the run. That gets you in third down situations, and then they have a great secondary to get you off the field. That allows them to send some of those blitzes at you, where if they are one-on-one in the back end, they can win that matchup more times than not. So I like where your head's at, and I think that would be a step in the right direction for the vision that this defense wants to be. And I feel like Nick Needham fits it, because I feel like him on a more talented defense, he would play even better. And I'm excited to see that, and if he continues to play well, I feel like he does have a bright future here in Miami, because as the defense gets better, he'll get better, for all of the reasons I just said. So it's an interesting thing, because the Dolphins legitimately might have their number 2 corner in house if he can continue to trend in the right direction. But Byron Jones is more of a zone corner. He plays. The Dallas Cowboys play a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3. Chris Richard is there, who coached in Seattle. They're not really a man-based defense for the most part. So I don't know if the fit. We play the third most. We're top 3 in most man defenses called in terms of man usage and stuff like that. So we play primarily man defense. So I don't know how he would fit into that, and he's gonna, garner a lot of money. So again, I feel like if Nick Needham, your question is, could Nick Needham be the coveted number 2? Yes, he could. And is Byron Jones a fit? I don't know. I would say I don't know on that one, but he is a great player. I will say that. This next question comes from Daniel. Daniel says, do you still have the same confidence in the coaching staff now after this loss? Yes, absolutely. It just was the lack of execution, especially on the defensive side of the football, that is an issue. And this isn't a coaching staff issue. I don't know if Bobby McCain is terrible at communicating. I don't know what it is. And obviously Raekwon wasn't playing in this game, so I don't know if that affected it, or however, the chemistry on the defense, or whoever calls the plays. I'm not sure. I know Jerome Baker does call plays, but I don't know if Raekwon is involved in that or whatever it is. But this is something that has plagued the Dolphins for, I'd say, the last 2 years. Is just a lot of busted coverages, and I'm starting to, I think it has more to do with the players that are there, and I really couldn't tell you. I understand what the Dolphins were trying to do on that blitz with the Dawson Knox touchdown. It just was, again, a lack of execution, and I don't put that in the coach's basket, but that is something that the Dolphins definitely need. Well, I think it has to do with the players more than anything, because I don't, this is something we've seen from them for a long time, and Bobby and Rashad have been a part of that, so I don't blame the coaches. Something is weird. For some reason they just didn't line up right, but I don't think it's the coach's problem. And I'm sure they practiced that. I just don't understand why they just can't do it on game day. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, I think Miami is drafting the quarterback from Oregon. Thoughts? Remember Deion Jordan was from Oregon. Yes, I do remember that. Justin Herbert? I don't know. I don't think so, though. I don't think the Dolphins are getting Justin Herbert. Corporate game. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. Corporate Gamer asks, after Tua's injury, would you feel comfortable taking Justin Herbert at the 3rd overall pick in the draft, assuming both Burrow and Young are gone? Chase Young? Joe Burrow. Would I feel comfortable taking Justin Herbert? I would still take Tua over Herbert, despite all the injuries. But would I feel comfortable? No. I would still feel a little skeptical about the whole situation if we took Herbert. Like, I would have to see him play on that level to be like, oh, okay. Like I said, he doesn't do anything exceptionally well. I know a lot of people like him more than they do Burrow and Tua. And all 3 of them have something in common where they've all 3 played in big games, and all 3 of them have a lot of experience. I mean, Tua, he's played in what would have been 3 national championship games. Obviously, he played in 2. Joe Burrow's an older dude, and Justin Herbert, this would be his 2nd year as a full-time starter. So, yeah, they all have a lot of experience, which is a good thing. And they've all played in big games. But, it's just, Justin Herbert, I don't know. He doesn't wow me as much as the other 2. And that's probably a stupid criticism to say, but he just doesn't, I just don't think he does anything exceptionally well. I know everybody likes his size and his arm talent, but can I see him carrying an NFL franchise, or is he just an average Joe Schmo quarterback who is going to be from anywhere from 15 to 20 on like a top 20 quarterback? ranking or something like that. I feel like that's where he's going to fall into. I don't think he's going to be ever going to be a top 10 quarterback or like an MVP candidate. I just don't see that in Justin Herbert. I could be wrong, and I probably am wrong. But I just don't think, like I said, I don't think he does anything exceptionally great. And the other two, I think they do. I think they have great qualities about them that I can point out and be like, he does that better than almost everybody. So, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I would feel just a little like hesitant with Justin Herbert. Like I need to see a little bit more. This next question comes from MC. MC asks, should Miami be looking at Mariota for next season instead of drafting a quarterback? No. At that point, you would just stick with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mariota is just not very good. This next question comes from David. David asks, would you rather draft Herbert or Jalen Hurts with our top draft pick? I would rather take Herbert. Because I just don't think Jalen Hurts is accurate, and it's different than Lamar Jackson. With the Lamar Jackson criticism, where I don't think he's accurate enough or whatever. I would really be concerned about Jalen Hurts and his ability to be a pocket passer. And is he the athlete that Lamar Jackson is? You know what I mean? Is he that I don't think he is. So I just don't think he'll work in the NFL. He might. I just don't see him being like a Lamar Jackson or a Deshaun Watson or who the hell? I've left another mobile quarterback out, but I don't know. I just don't see it. So yeah, I would take Herbert. This next question goes to Jack Pat. Jack Pat asks, they need to draft or sign some serious defensive talent, or Josh Allen is going to keep making them look lost twice a year. Yeah, I mean, he's an athletic quarterback who can extend plays, but if you can keep him in the pocket, he regresses significantly. He's lucky he has a defense that keeps him in games, because if he had to carry a franchise, and this is no fault to him, because at least, good job for the Bills to actually building a team around him, but I just don't think he's someone who is that exceptionally great player. He beat a bad Dolphins team. Congratulations. It is what it is. This next question comes from Richard. Richard asks, what about drafting Jake Fromm, the Georgia quarterback? He can run Chad O'Shea's Dolphins offense. I feel like Joe Burrow is a better version of Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm is like, I don't know how to, I guess he reminds me a little bit of Chad Pennington, but he's just I just don't think he's going to be as good as Chad Pennington. And no disrespect to Chad Pennington, but he is not someone that I'm like, this is going to turn the Dolphins franchise around, even if we drafted him in his prime. So, I just don't see Jake Fromm being that guy. This next question comes from Take Me Out. He asks, will we see Laird and Gaskin getting more opportunities soon? I hope so, dude. We should. Laird should be the starter. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He asks, do you think the Ravens are the best team right now in the NFL? Yes, I do. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. Corporate Gamer asks, New England looks very beatable. Thoughts? Yeah. Their defense carries the load, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can't win a championship, because that defense is very special. So, I wouldn't count them out, that's for sure. This next question comes from Take Me Out. He says, do you think the Dolphins should extend Devontae Parker now? We just did, didn't we? I don't know if, wasn't it a 2-year deal? I would have to look up the exact numbers, but we just did. Or maybe it is a 1-year prove-it deal. But yeah, I think you're right about that. Yes, the Dolphins should extend him. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. Corporate Gamer asks, if you could go back in time, would you draft Lamar instead of Minka? Lamar would be a good fit for us. Well, you got to understand something. What the Baltimore Ravens did with Lamar, not every NFL franchise would have done. Like, people are going to look at that situation and be like, oh, we can get Lamar in here. No, you have to have the right offense. You have to have the right organization to realize we need to realize the right way of utilizing someone like Lamar Jackson. If Vic would have won an MVP if he was in Lamar Jackson's offense. He just was always misused. They didn't, he just never was with the other. Then when he got to Andy Reid, it was just a little bit different. And Andy doesn't run that type of offense anyway. That's not, he needs someone who can win within the pocket as well as get outside of the pocket. But again, I think it's a unique situation where if Lamar went here, I think he would have way less success than he would be, unless we hired the same. I mean, all of the stars would have had to aligned for Lamar to have the success he's having in Baltimore if he was drafted in Miami. I don't think he would have had nowhere near the same amount of success. But who knows? Maybe was the offensive coordinator's name Greg Roman, who obviously also coached Colin Kaepernick, and they went to the Super Bowl. Who knows? Maybe if he was a Dolphin, if Lamar Jackson was a Dolphin, they bring him in. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but I feel like a lot of things would have had to have gone right. What if the Dolphins used him in the way that the Ravens are, and built that offense for him? I don't think they would have. This next question comes to Jagpack. Jagpack asks, do you think Hearns is worth that contract extension? Yeah, I do. He had a bad game. It's terrible timing. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. Corporate Gamer asks, should Rosen get another chance this year? No. I think we've seen enough, and I think it would hurt his development, to be honest with you. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, didn't get in last week, was a guest of the county. I don't know what that means, dude. It was with the guest of the county. I almost thought that said country. I was like, dang, man. Anyway, he goes on to say, I see Tua dropping hard and being selected by New England or the Ravens. Why would the Ravens take him? He can wait till Brady gets tired of being a loser or Lamar Jackson gets hurt, both of which should take about 2 years, which would be perfect for Tua to get healthy and learn, then start killing the NFL. Should the Dolphins draft him and sit him behind Rosen if we miss out on the quarterbacks in this draft, or wait till 2021? And remember, we passed Lamar Jackson for Minkah Fitzpatrick. And again, I will point out that it takes a certain special set of circumstances for Lamar Jackson to have that much success. If he was drafted to the Dolphins, there's no way he would have had that amount, especially if Adam Gase was still here. So I don't think that's something like, oh, we passed on. No, I think Lamar, it was meant to be. Let's put it that way for him to go to Baltimore. Should the Dolphins still? Yes, the Dolphins should still take Tua Tagovailoa. It doesn't matter. If he drops, we have 3 first-round picks. All 3 of them would be ahead of New England. If he somehow got past all 3 of them, I might just quit existing. Like, just stop. Like, I just would disappear, because then reality doesn't make any sense anymore, and then I would disappear. If we had 3 first-round picks, 1 from Pittsburgh and 1 from Houston, and both of those are going to be ahead of New England and Baltimore, and somehow Tua Tagovailoa became a Patriot, I would cease to exist. So that is going to be it, guys. That is going to be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys liked it. And I'm Skax383, and I'll see you guys next week. I think we got the Cleveland Browns next week. I think in Cleveland. So that's going to be interesting. See what the Dolphins defense can bring to that game. I think hopefully Raekwon plays. We're going to have to be dealing with 2 really good running backs, though, with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Hopefully the play calling gets in the way of that, though. And I'll see you guys in the next one.